Hello, and welcome to Pines with Aquinas. I am Father Gregory Pine, and I'm going to try to, we together shall, answer the question, how perfect are we supposed to become? Let's find out. So, in the 5th chapter of Matthew's Gospel, we read that line that says, "Be ye therefore perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect." Now, it's inspiring, it's awesome, it's beautiful indeed, but it can also be a little bit intimidating because our Heavenly Father is indeed very perfect, and any of us who have lived for more than 5 seconds realize that we are not only imperfect, but the chances that we become perfect in the way that God is perfect, as we're presently thinking about it, are exceedingly small, non-existent, okay? So what does that mean? How are we supposed to appropriate that verse, or how are we supposed to make it our own? Here, I think it's helpful to think first about perfection, and then to think a little bit about what it means to be a human being, and then third, finally, talk about charity and how we respond to that call. So to be perfect just means to be made complete, or to be made through and through. So we call those things perfect which lack nothing proper to what they are. So for instance, to be a perfect rock means to be perfectly rocky. We wouldn't say that a rock is bad because it doesn't have wings, because rocks aren't supposed to have wings. Rocks don't fly, at least in this world, as I have experienced it up to this point. They don't. So a perfect rock is just perfectly rocky, which is to say it's hard, it resists being broken up, it obeys the law of gravity, things like that. You kind of go up the scale of being and then think about what it means to be a perfect plant. Okay, I suppose it'll depend on what species of plant we're describing, but it should be the type of plant that can reproduce, that can grow, that's like available to get enough sunlight. It's available to get enough sunlight. It's able to get enough sunlight. It's able to get enough nutrients and water. It's the type of thing that's going to make it for this generation and then pass on its little planty life to the next generation. And then ascend again to animals. Now we're talking about more complex things. They're sensing, they're responding, they're moving about. But to be perfect as an animal means to be perfectly animally. All right. So you see where this is going. For us, to be perfect human beings means that we are perfect according as we are made. So we're not made to be God. There's only one God, and He is in His heavens. But we are called to be perfect human beings, and God gives us the nature and the supernature, or the nature and the grace, to do just that. So what's characteristic of us as human beings? Well, think about how we're set apart from the beasts. We have minds with which to know, we have hearts with which to love, and we are supposed to perfect those powers as we ascend by many movements towards the knowledge and love of God. So we talk about the fact that we're made to the image and likeness of God, which is, I guess, a kind of shorthand way of saying that we are capable of receiving God and capable of growing in that reception. So we have this mind, we have this heart, but beyond that, with this mind and with this heart, we can know and love God. Beyond that, we can know and love God with His own knowledge and love of Himself, and continue to do so throughout the course of this life until we enjoy that knowing and loving perfectly forever in heaven. All right? So to be perfect as a human being means to do what we have just described in a way that leaves nothing lacking. So it doesn't mean to be perfectly angelic. It doesn't mean to be perfectly divine, because that is a nature not our own, which is great. All right? So we have been dealt this hand, which is to say we have been made in this nature, in this time and in this place and in these circumstances. And so to be perfect will mean responding in this precise way to God's offer of Himself and to the gift of His grace. So then, when we think about the double love command, which is described in the Gospels as, "You shall love the Lord your God with your whole heart, mind, soul, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself," we can think about this here as setting before us a standard for our perfection. So we're not going to be able to love God perfectly, which is to say in a fully mature, fully actualized way yesterday. But what we are capable of is referring our knowing and our loving to God as our end, right? And to do so habitually. So to wake up in the morning, make a morning offering, to go to bed at night, to commend the day to the Lord with a little bit of an examen or something along those lines, right? But then to strive more and more to make this habit richer, deeper, more intense, more extensive, okay? So that it becomes actual throughout the course of your day. So we refer our knowing and our loving to God in a kind of habitual way by faith and by charity. but we seek to act out of those virtues more and more so that we know him and we love him with greater fervor, with greater devotion, with greater attention and care throughout the course of our lives. And then we behold as that love kind of overflows or spills into our love of other human beings, whom we love as like ourselves, as also made to the image and likeness of God, which is to say, who are also capable of knowing and loving God after the manner in which we ourselves have been created. And in that way, we become like God, which is to say, we become like the idea of God, or we become, no, that's a bad way of describing it. We become more and more likened to the very divine nature itself. So we can become like God in a really thick sense. The way that the scriptures talk about it is, you are gods and sons of the Most High, or you are called to be partakers of the divine nature. So we can become so filled, from the soles of our feet to the tops of our heads, metaphorically speaking, with the grace of God, that we become, likened unto him, right? We become deiform, or when you think about it in the Christian way, like in a fully Christian way, we become Christiform. We become like Christ in our very shape, in our very tendency, in our very life's breath. So, to be perfect means to be made through and through after the manner in which you have been created. But then speaking specifically to human perfection, what's characteristic of us is that we have minds and that we have hearts, which are not only capable of God, but which can receive God and grow in their knowing and loving such that they can have God for their very inner life. And ultimately then, to be perfect means to tend ever onward, or to tend further up and further in to the very life of God, such that we become kind of caught up, as it were. And in that way, we are made perfect as our Heavenly Father is perfect. So, boom. All right. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe to Pints with Aquinas. Push the little bell so that Google will be forced to alert you when a new video or a new live stream comes up. And then if you haven't yet, please do check out Godsplaining, a podcast of the Dominican Friars of the Province of St. Joseph, to which I continue, where you can find all other cool kinds of stuff. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on Pints with Aquinas.